1. The game that predicted everything. In the very first episode of Stranger Things, the entire future of the series is quietly written into one tabletop game. Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Will sit around a dimly lit basement table, playing Dungeons & Dragons, their opponent, the Demogorgon. A monster, Mike warns, is their biggest challenge yet. The moment feels like harmless kid fun, until Will rolls his dice, fails his throw, and loses the game. Minutes later, he's the first to vanish. That D&D monster doesn't just symbolize danger, it foreshadows the real Demogorgon that soon emerges from the Upside Down to take him. The game becomes a mirror of their lives, their battles, losses, and victories translated into fantasy. It's one of the first signals that the Duffers were building a story where imagination and reality constantly overlap, and that their games would always predict what comes next. 2. The Arcade Love Triangle. Season 2 hides another prediction inside a blink-and-you-miss-it arcade scene. Lucas teases Dustin for failing to rescue Princess Daphne in the classic game Dragon's Lair. The scene plays out like comic relief, just kids arguing over a game. But later, it becomes clear that the game itself reflects the boys' own story. Both Lucas and Dustin develop feelings for Max, the new girl in Hawkins. By the end of the season, Lucas wins her affection, and Dustin is left behind. The failed rescue line from Dragon's Lair perfectly mirrors that outcome. What seemed like a background joke was actually a coded version of their future relationship dynamic. The Duffers used the arcade as a storytelling device, wrapping emotional foreshadowing inside playful banter. 3. Will's Fireball Prophecy. There's a quiet conversation in an early season between Will and his mother, Joyce, that hides a powerful prediction. Will explains the rules of Dungeons & Dragons, saying that when smart wizards can't outthink their enemies, they use a fireball spell, a burst of flame that destroys whatever stands in their way. At the time, it sounded like a simple line of dialogue about a game. But when Will becomes possessed by the Mind Flayer, that same detail reappears in real life. Joyce and Jonathan use heat to drive the creature out of Will's body. The fire literally burns the infection away. What sounded like harmless storytelling becomes literal foreshadowing. Fire, the same weapon Will described, becomes the only thing that saves him. 4. Murray was right all along. When Murray first shows up in Season 2, he's introduced as a paranoid conspiracy theorist. He's convinced that Russians are secretly operating inside Hawkins' hopper, rolls his eyes, dismissing him as a crackpot. But by Season 3, every word he said turns out to be true. Beneath the Starcourt Mall, a full-scale Russian operation is in progress. Armed soldiers, scientists, and a massive machine designed to punch a hole into the Upside Down. Murray's insanity was actually foresight. The Duffers turned a running joke into one of the show's biggest payoffs. What everyone ignored as comic paranoia becomes factual prophecy, proving that sometimes the strangest voices in Hawkins are the most accurate. 5. The Clock That Warns of Death. By Season 4, Stranger Things introduces one of its most chilling symbols, the Creel House grandfather clock. Before every one of Vecna's victims dies, that clock chimes. At first, it seems like a horror trope, an eerie sound to build tension, but it's far more deliberate. The chime is Vecna's warning, his countdown to death. Chrissy hears it long before he appears, marking her as doomed before she even understands why. But the choice of a clock isn't random. From the first trailer, fans wondered why a clock and why 4 chimes. It matches Vecna's 4 victims, but it might also hint at something deeper, time itself. The Upside Down is frozen at the exact date of Will Byers' disappearance. Clocks there don't move, yet the Creel House clock still ticks and chimes. That makes it the one object defying the Upside Down's time freeze, suggesting a direct link between Vecna and time's distortion. Some believe Vecna exists beyond time, able to move through memories and the past, though not the future. That would explain his fixation on confirming outcomes, and his line to Eleven, "You have already lost." Maybe he's already seen it happen. The grandfather clock, then, isn't just a warning of death, it's a symbol of inevitability, echoing through a world where time itself is broken. 6. Jason's Deadly Hangover. Season 4's Jason Carver delivers one of the show's most ironic prophecies without realizing it. During a conversation with Lucas, he jokes that a hangover feels like being split in two. It's an offhand comment, the kind of line that barely registers in the moment. But when the upside down finally tears through Hawkins, that same phrase becomes horrifyingly literal. When the ground splits in two, Jason's caught in it, and that's the end for him. The show never calls attention to it, but the echo between his line and his fate is unmistakable. His words weren't just casual, they were a grim premonition of his own end. It's one of the most brutal examples of the Duffers turning ordinary dialogue into exact foreshadowing. 7. Henry's name in plain sight. In the first episode of Season 4, while Will presents at school, there's a subtle background detail that most people miss. Behind him, written on a board, is the name Henry. To an ordinary viewer, it looks like a random piece of set dressing, maybe a leftover from another student's project, but when the truth about Vecna is finally revealed, that one name becomes enormous. Henry Creel is Vecna's real name. The show quietly plants it right behind Will, long before anyone connects the dots. It's the Duffers' favorite kind of hidden hint. Small, visual, and completely factual, but carrying huge meaning once you know what to look for. The camera never lingers on it, but in hindsight, that background clue was one of the earliest signs that Vecna's story was already woven into Will's world. 8. Eddie's tattoos of fate. When Eddie Munson first appears, his tattoos look like pure attitude, part of his heavy metal identity. Bats spread across his arm in thick black ink. Nothing unusual for a rebellious metalhead. But by the end of Season 4, those same tattoos reveal their purpose. Eddie passes away fighting a swarm of monstrous bat-like creatures in the Upside Down. He doesn't run, he stands his ground and sacrifices himself to buy time for his friends. The bats on his skin foreshadow the creatures that ultimately end him. His ink wasn't random art, it was a symbol of what was waiting for him. The Duffers turned his tattoos into storytelling devices, linking his design to his destiny from the start. Eddie's tragedy is written on him long before his final fight begins. 9. The D&D game that spoiled the finale. In Season 4's first episode, the group plays Dungeons & Dragons again, but this time, the stakes inside the game mirror the battle to come. Dustin rolls an 11 to defeat Vecna and fails. Only when Erica rolls a perfect 20 do they win. On the surface, it's another fun, competitive game. But by the finale, the meaning becomes obvious. In the Upside Down, 11 fails to defeat Vecna alone. It takes multiple teams working together, the multiple parties, to even injure him. Their dice game doesn't just foreshadow the conflict, it outlines the exact structure of the season's final act. The kids were unknowingly playing out their own future right there on the table. 10. The poster that told the whole season, The Stranger. Things 4 poster isn't just promotional artwork, it's a map of the story. It shows 4 separate roads converging into a single rift at the center. At a glance, it looks like a cool symmetrical design. But when the season plays out, the meaning becomes unmistakable. Vecna kills 4 victims, opening 4 gates that merge into one massive tear in Hawkins. The poster wasn't just aesthetic, it visually spoiled the season's structure months before release. The Duffers use visual design the same way they use dialogue and props, to hide literal answers in plain sight. 11. Hopper's fatal song choice. During Season 3, Hopper sings along to Jim Croce's You Don't Mess Around with Jim while driving. The song is upbeat, easygoing, even funny in context. But the lyrics end darkly. The character Jim passes away, taken down by a stronger man. Hopper laughs through the song, unaware that he's echoing his own fate. By the end of the season, he appears in the Russian explosion, just like the man in the lyrics. 12. Vecna's invisible hand. Back in Season 1, before anyone knew his name, Vecna might have already been at work. There's a short, strange moment when the Demogorgon unlocks a door without touching it. At the time, it seems like just another supernatural ability, but the Demogorgon doesn't have telekinetic power. Only Vecna does. That one action implies that Vecna was already manipulating the creature from behind the scenes, giving it temporary strength and control. It suggests he's been shaping events in Hawkins far longer than anyone realized. One quiet shot of a door handle becomes a clue that the real puppet master was active from the beginning. 13. Nancy's hidden. Goodbye to Barb. In Season 1, Episode 3, Nancy walks through her school searching for Barb. She's worried, asking people if they've seen her friend. Behind her, pinned to the bulletin board, is a single poster with one word in bold letters: nevermore. It's a direct nod to Edgar Allan Poe's poem The Raven, where a grieving narrator is haunted by that same word after losing someone forever. The clue is blunt but hidden, a literary way of saying Barb is already gone. While the characters still hope she's alive, the background quietly confirms her death. The Duffers use the poster as both tribute and revelation, hiding truth in a single word. 14. Vecna's Secret. Mark appears early. Season 2, Episode 7, the infamous Lost Sister episode, includes a small but important image in the background, a hand with an eye in its center. It's not a random decoration. To Dungeons & Dragons fans, it's instantly recognizable as Vecna's mark, taken directly from the Vecna Lives module. At the time, it seemed like a meaningless sign in a rough neighborhood, but years later, that same symbol gains full context. The Duffers were teasing Vecna's existence long before Season 4 revealed him. Even in one of the most divisive episodes, they were quietly building the mythology that would later define the entire series. 15 clues, one monster. Across every season, the Duffers hid clues like puzzle pieces, dice rolls, tattoos, songs, clocks, even background words. Each one predicted something major: a death, a revelation, or a connection still to come. What makes these moments powerful isn't just how clever they are, but how factual. Every clue is physically there, visible, audible, and deliberate. Together, they prove that Stranger Things has been warning us from the very start. Every roll of the dice, every chime of the clock, every song, lyric, and tattoo was part of one long prophecy about the monster that's been there since day one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive.